My name is Annie. On a cold, rainy day in March 2007, I was partying with my friends Kia and Veronica, who were also my roommates in a small town called Mango, Alabama. I was sleeping on their couch. Back in those days, I was wild and hooked on substances. I was 19 and recently got thrown out of my aunt's place after she went in my room and found my stash of pills. She confronted me about it after she admitted to flushing them down the toilet. I snapped and put my hands around her throat. I was so out of my mind, I don't know what came over me. One night, Veronica, Kia, and I were all getting high on nose candy. As my adrenaline ramped up and the feeling of euphoria settled in, Kia got a psychotic idea. "Hey y'all, we're almost out of nose candy. I know how we can get more," she says as her eyes filled with glee. Her right eye began to twitch, which always happens when she's getting high. "How?" I asked her sarcastically. As we were all just barely keeping our heads above water, I didn't have a job and they were both just barely making ends meet with their fast food jobs. Kia says enthusiastically, "We can set up this dealer I know named Jonathan. I've got it all figured out. He kind of likes me, but I would need help pulling the whole thing off. I'll meet him at his house for a date. Then I'll make sure the door is unlocked for both of you so you can rush in and take his drugs and money." "Bitch, you sound crazy as fuck," I scream at her. "Kia, that's easily the dumbest thing you've ever said." I was still on probation from the choking incident with my aunt and determined not to go back to jail. I don't know," Veronica says as she was very easily led and for some reason followed behind anything Kia said or did. "We could get in trouble, or what if he overpowers us?" "He won't," Kia says confidently. "I've been to his apartment before. He got really shit-faced and showed me the safe in his closet where he keeps his money. There had to be at least 10,000 in there. I'll make sure he's occupied so he doesn't notice. He's already doing illegal activities. Do you really think he's gonna call the cops?" "It just seems super risky," Veronica says timidly. "Trust me, I memorized the combination from when he opened it in front of me. By the time he notices the money is missing, we'll be long gone. It's not like he knows where we live. Plus his apartment is all the way in Kashmir. I'll put something in his drink so we'll be in and out." "Come on, Annie, you're the only one of the three of us who has a car." "No," I say firmly. "Then find another place to live, bitch. Good luck finding an apartment with that criminal background. You'll be living in your fucking car by tomorrow morning," she says to me coldly, referring to my multiple arrests for drugs and assaults. "Fine," I scream at her. "I'll make the drive, but I don't want to go inside," I say defeated. "Good," Kia says sweetly. "What do you say, Veronica? All you have to do is run in, open the safe, and we'll be out of there. I'll even give you a bigger cut. How about 3,500? Kia insists, cutting off Veronica mid-sentence. "Okay, as long as no one gets hurt." "Don't worry," Kia says happily, hugging Veronica tightly and flashing her toothy smile at me. I'll text him and set up the date for tomorrow night. "Don't worry, y'all, it'll be fine." By 5 p.m. the next day, we had all loaded into my car to make the nearly 2-hour trip from Mango, Alabama to Kashmir, Alabama, where Jonathan lived. "Are you sure this will work? What if he gets suspicious?" Veronica says nervously. "For the 1,000th time, he won't. Here," Kia says as she hands Veronica a blunt, which she takes. "You need to relax before we do this. We don't need you barging in there and picking the whole thing up." Kia continues, "I'm gonna keep him distracted and make sure he falls asleep. And when he does, I'll unlock the door for you to come in." "Okay," Veronica says sheepishly as she takes a long drag from the blunt. We arrived at Jonathan's apartment around 7:30 that night. "You two wait down at the building across the street. I'll text you when it's time. Don't take too long. We don't need to be out here all night," I say annoyed. Kia disappeared into the dimly lit building. Veronica and I sat in the car nervously, dreading every second of what we were about to do, as we waited for Kia's text. About 2 hours went by. Rain began to pour down in heavy sheets as the tension began to build. "What do you think is taking so long?" Veronica asks, petrified. "He knows something's up. This is so psychotic. I can't believe we're really doing this." Just then, Veronica got a smiley face text from Kia, giving her the go-ahead to come in. She gave me a final terrified look as she exited the car and made her way across the street. Adrenaline was coursing through our veins. The plane was in motion and there was no turning back now. I started doing my last bit of nose candy that I had in my pocket. I started looking around the parking lot. No sign of Kia or Veronica. It's been about 5 minutes since Veronica got the text to come inside from Kia. I began to contemplate just leaving them there and booking it back home before I remember Kia's words. "You'll be living in your car by tomorrow morning." What the fuck are they doing? Just then I see Veronica bolting towards my direction with Kia running behind her. I crank up my car and unlock the doors when I suddenly see Jonathan chasing after them, holding something in his hand that I can't quite make out. And then he begins shooting at them. I feel sick to my stomach as I attempt to process the reality of what's happening around me. I watch in horror, powerless as Kia and Veronica sprinted towards the car with sheer panic across their faces. With merely nanoseconds to spare, they both manage to make it into my car before Jonathan catches up to them. "What the happened?" I screamed as I sped out of the complex. "I thought you put something in his drink to knock him out." "He ended up falling asleep on his own," Kia says as her voice trembled with fear. "He must have heard something or had a nightmare because as soon as Veronica started putting the code into the safe, he woke up immediately. Once he realized what we were doing, he grabbed his gun from under the pillow and threatened to kill us," she says as her voice cracks with emotion. "We didn't expect him to wake up so soon. He caught us off guard." "Veronica, are you okay? Veronica, oh my God!" Kia screams. I look at the back seat where Veronica was sitting and she was covered in blood and suffering from gunshot wounds. "Veronica, stay with me," I pleaded, my voice strained with fear and desperation. "We need to get her to the hospital now. Annie, we have to do something. She's losing too much blood." I pulled into the parking lot of a large grocery store and dialed 911.
911, what is your emergency?
I only tell the dispatch that our friend is shot and give her our location before abruptly hanging up, terrified to give too many details and throw our freedom into jeopardy. After I got off the phone with the 911 operator, I burst into tears and have a full panic attack. "Look, Annie," Kia says, shaking me. "If we don't want to go to prison, we have to get our story straight ASAP. When the police get here, we're told them we were at a park about a mile from here when a 6-foot-tall black man wearing all black tried to take Veronica's wallet, but she wouldn't give it. So he shot her and took off. That's when we all rushed back to the car and stopped here to call for help." "I think she's dying. We're gonna go down for this. I just know it. What if they don't believe our story? What's gonna happen to us?" I cry out loud. "Keep your fucking voice down," Kia warns me through her clenched teeth. "The only way they'll know anything is if you screw this all up and start running that mouth of yours. Just stick to the story." About 5 minutes later, the paramedics and multiple cop cars pull up into the parking lot. Just then, the EMT started to administer CPR to Veronica when 2 cops approached Kia and I to ask us what happened. They immediately separated us as they began to question our sides of the story. The officer who approached me was about 6'3", African American, and dressed in a white shirt and black slacks. "Hello, I'm Detective Mike Payne. Tell us what happened here today." I struggled to maintain my composure and fight the urge to confess everything on the spot, as calmly as I could. I recalled the story that Kia told me to say just minutes before to the detective, who wrote down my statement. "Thank you very much for speaking with me, Annie." I breathed a deep sigh of relief, thinking we may actually be in the clear. "But I think you're bullshit," he tells me in a very serious tone. "All 3 of you fit the description of 3 women who were seen running away moments after gunfire erupted in an apartment complex about a mile from here." Just then my heart sinks as I look over and see Kia being placed in handcuffs. "What the fuck?" I say out loud, tears welling up in my eyes. "All right, Annie, I'm going to ask you to put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest for the shooting of your friend," Detective Payne says nonchalantly. "I didn't shoot anybody. You have to believe me," I say with tears streaming down my face at this point. "We'll sort everything out at the station," he tells me as he whisks me into the police car right next to Kia. Everything unfolds in a blur of flashing lights and chaotic voices swirling around me. As they lead me away from the scene, I steal a final glance back at Veronica, lying motionless on the stretcher, her life hanging in the balance. I'm racked with an immense sense of guilt and agony at the whole situation. The interrogation room is cold and sterile, the air thick with tension. I sat in the tiny room silently, across from Detective Payne and his partner, a nice man named Detective Anthony Smith. Detective Payne stares at me sternly as he says, "Start from the beginning, Annie," his voice says, cutting through the silence. "Tell me everything." "I already did," I tell him firmly. "We were in the park and some tall black guy tried to rob us. Veronica wouldn't give him her wallet, so he shot her. End of story." "Look," Detective Payne says as he slams his hand on the table. "Let's cut to the chase. If your friend dies tonight, you are looking at decades in prison. I've been doing this job long enough to know when someone's lying to me. So are you the bitch who shot Veronica, or is it Kia?" Detective Payne screams at me. "Listen, Annie," Detective Smith says gently. "The only way we can help you is if you tell us the truth." "So who pulled the trigger? Was it you or Kia?" "Neither," I say timidly. I know how foolish it is to speak with cops without an attorney present, but I was so scared. "It was a guy named Jonathan. We planned to rob him, but I don't know what happened. I waited outside. I never went into the apartment, so I don't know what happened. The next thing I know, Kia and Veronica are running back to the car and Jonathan was chasing them. Then he shot Veronica. That's when we rushed to the grocery store parking lot and called 911. I was just the driver." As Detective Payne and Detective Smith exchanged glances, I braced myself for what was to come, as my heart pounded out of my chest. That's when Detective Payne slowly nodded his head to his partner, seemingly to give him the go-ahead to say whatever he was about to say. "Annie," Detective Payne starts. Veronica was pronounced dead shortly after arriving at the hospital, around 30 minutes ago. What? Oh my God, I instantly start sobbing. What's gonna happen now? I sat in jail for 2 years waiting for my sentencing date. In the murder of my friend Veronica. The shooter, Jonathan, the drug dealer, got 40 years, with the judge deciding that because Kia and Veronica were running away, it was no longer self-defense. Kia got 27 years for her role as the mastermind in the whole plot, which caused the death of Veronica. As for me, since I confessed and struck a plea deal, I pled guilty to a lesser charge of accessory to murder. My blood ran cold as the judge handed down the sentence, saying, Annie Renee Stevenson, a jury of your peers have found you guilty of the crime of accessory to murder in the first degree. This court now sentences you to 15 years confinement at the Doro Women's Correctional Institution.